is Vice President Kai Brito calling this meeting to order. Please order in the room. Vice President Juve, please, can you help me end the conversation? Thank you. Okay, now calling this meeting to order at 4:33 p.m. We'll now begin with the roll call by VP Crowder.
President.
Not president, just chairperson.
Oh, okay. But Giovanni.
Oh, yes.
So I can just mark.
Excuse.
It's my first time doing.
Okay, yeah.
roll call.
He's excused today.
Yes. Okay. VP of Administrative. Oh my God.
Administration and Finance, Kai Brito, present.
Thank you, because, yeah.
And
Why
that's
did
like,
I say yes to that again? I'm leaving you, you're good. Okay. VP of Legislative, I'll just go VPLA.
that works.
You? Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm present, VP of Community Development, VP of PR.
Mike, you there?
VP of PR, Michael Malone.
Mike, you can type if you're present too. Let's just come back to him.
Advisor Green.
You're.
Sarah McCollum. Senator Angel.
Present.
Thank you. Senator Brunner. Sierra, I just remembered.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Clearwater. Present. Senator Kessel.
I didn't hear anything from him.
Okay.
Mark him absent.
Senator Hurd.
Present.
Senator Washington. Present. Senator Wilkin. How many people's names?
Present.
That's correct.
Thank you. Senator Willis.
We might need to check in about that later, but you can put, excuse for now and need to check on something with her, but
Okay.
we'll put excuse for now. Do we have one?
Yes. We need to do the other senators. Senator, Stacy Brunner.
Here.
That's all?
Yep.
Okay, and we have four?
Yes.
Okay, and the meeting was called to order at 4:33. Yeah. Thank you very much. Approval of previous meeting minutes. This goes into another agenda item that we have, but we do not currently have a communications coordinator and the meeting minutes are not being currently written out. So we do not have meeting minutes from the previous meeting. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the reading and approval of the meeting agenda. Has everyone had time to look over it? Do I have a motion to approve? Approval by VP Ju and second by Senator Avila. Yes. Okay, thank you. Vote by unanimous approval. If there is no objections, then this motion will pass. Does anyone object? 2, 1, no objections. Motion passes. We'll stick to the meeting agenda, starting with public comments from the Institute for Equity and Transformational Change. A presentation by Marco Torres Miranda, Dr. Michelle Turner, and Siobhan Bowen, perhaps a doctor. Not sure about that one, but
Not yet.
not yet.
She will not be joining us today.
Okay, gotcha. And I've had the pleasure of seeing most of you around campus before, so thank you very much for coming here and to our Senate and educating us about what you do.
Of course.
The floor is yours.
Thank you for having us. So how formal should we be? Do you want us up here?
If you'd like to stand up, you certainly may. It's your call,
Okay.
your floor.
Thank you. All right, so thank you for having us. I'm Marco Torres Miranda, Director of the Institute for Equity and Transformational Change, and obviously Dr. Michelle Turner.
Hello, I think I introduced myself to most of you.
Curious, who's heard of the Institute for Equity and Transformational Change? Raise a hand. Okay, you folks, awesome. So here's what we'd like to do today, because part of what, well, I'll get to the why. We'll talk about sort of how the institute came to be, the mission that we have, the purpose of the team. Talk about sort of the approach that we've taken over the last 3 years. We're a relatively new unit at the college, and we've been doing a lot of development and growing over the last 2.5 years. But now I think we're at a stage where we want to think about how do we more strategically and collaboratively work with Student Senate and other students to be able to advance the mission vision of what I'm going to share with you today, what we're going to share with you today. So at the end, we'll have a discussion, hopefully on the last bullet point, but please share thoughts, questions as we go through this time. Part of how we began was acknowledging that, there we go, acknowledging that unlike many national two-year institutions, we continue to have racial disparities for our most marginalized and structurally excluded students. We know that college, specifically two-year institutions, is a path towards social mobility and provides a lot of open access doors towards transfer, credentialing, et cetera, et cetera. And we know that many more Black and Brown specifically students enroll in two-year institutions, but as you'll see in a bit, their completion rates are not the same as other students that we serve. So that's a big reason why we said, why is this happening, right? What can we do as an institution that is going to address those institutional performance gaps, ensure that as an institution, we don't have national trends like this. We pulled data from back 4 years and looking specifically at the data of success rates for our Madison College students. And as you can see, we have disparities for our Black and Brown students. Right? Why is that, right? And how do we as an institution respond to that in a way that's going to be strategic, intentional, with thinking about academic culture, our campus culture and climate, how we teach, what we teach, who we're bringing in as faculty, et cetera, to be able to close some of these disparities. Because our process takes years in the sense of we don't see change necessarily that's going to be impactful from 1 week to the next week. We now have data that shows that some of the work that we've been doing is increasing the persistence of students of color and the completion rates to close those inequities that we have at Madison College, right? Which is why we're trying to grow, expand the voice, amplify students' involvement in the work that we're doing. Next slide, please. So this is who we are. Initially, we were positioned within academic affairs, leveraged to work with all academic schools to think about how do we close those institutional. In that 2.5, 3 years that we've been in existence, we have blossomed and now we're serving the whole college to think about, yes, right, we've developed programming for academics and faculty within academic affairs, but what does that look like for student affairs? What does that look like for leadership, managers, cabinet, et cetera? As of last semester, we have moved out of academic affairs and now are an institution-wide department that is serving all parts of the college to close those institutional inequities. And as of this semester, we are now under Dr. Grady in her division of college culture and climate to have better alignment with some of the initiatives that her division is rolling out throughout the college. The purpose of us is really to be a hub to engage faculty, staff, and administrators to be able to think about how they can shift their practice to be more equitable and inclusive. And specifically, we have priorities that focus around how do we develop what we call a culture of inquiry at Madison College. And what that basically means is oftentimes, and having been a faculty member before, I do what I do because I was taught to do it by how my previous faculty member mentored me, how I went to school, and how I was socialized to be a faculty member. But we're not curious about why we do what we do. Okay? So when we talk about a culture of inquiry, it's bringing that inquiry to the questioning and critiquing the way of practices that we have within academics and all that we do at two-year and four-year institutions. And part of what that does is helps us think about how do we better collaborate and think about curricula, right? I'll talk a little bit about our curriculum mapping and development process that has really empowered almost 200 faculty now to think about how and who they're centering in the content that they teach, what voices are being amplified, what norms are being perpetuated, and how they can be more intentional with using curriculum reform as a way to better engage students from diverse backgrounds and as a retention and persistence initiative for all of our students. In addition, we'll talk a little bit about how we use data in this work, but ultimately it's about empowering faculty to make shifts in their practice through things like curriculum, professional development, and what Dr. Turner leads, action research, and she'll share a little bit about that as well today. And so who we are, next slide please. We are a team of, so Dr. Turner and I are sort of the core of the Institute for Equity and Transformational Change, but we work with about 13, 14 other faculty that come from all different schools to be able to leverage the scope of the work. And what I mean by that is that what we do within School of Business and Applied Arts may look differently in School of Nursing, right? So we want to have people that have and live in those spaces to be able to contextualize, localize what we're doing so that it's more meaningful for that particular school and the students and their outcomes. But just want to give a quick shout out to the team who has been serving many of them for the last 3 years. We try to bring on new perspectives and new voices every semester based on the needs that we have, but an amazing team that we get to work with. So what we've been doing is basically trying to begin with being very data informed in the sense that oftentimes in my experience in the literature, people make changes based on anecdotes or stories or their personal experiences of what they've seen in the classroom. And in our experience, at least for the past 3 years, when we talk to faculty and staff, they say, oh, I don't have any equity in my practice. All my students are succeeding, right? But what we do is we have a workshop called Data Use for Equity that allows faculty to look at their course success outcomes for the last 10 years, disaggregate that by gender, disaggregate that by race, ethnicity, and they realize quickly, I have inequities in my classroom, right? There are particular demographics of students that are succeeding at higher rates than those that are not. And why we do this is because we need to bring attention to that this is something that we can all have an influence on in the classroom, in our programs, in our schools, but also trying to shift that mindset of like, oh, that's not my responsibility to what Dr. Turner has termed institutional performance gaps, right? What can we do as an institution? What can I do as a staff member, faculty member, administrator to close those racial inequities in our sphere of influence? And we developed what's called an equity-minded approach to this work by taking oftentimes what happens is the blame on students, right? They come underprepared, they're not studying hard enough, et cetera, and thinking about what can we do as an institution to better support the success of our students. And that shift in mindset is really critical because oftentimes when we have conversations around data, you will see, having run many of the workshops, faculty have oftentimes a deficit orientation, but now we're trying to shift that deficit orientation to be more equity-minded for them to ask questions about their role in maintaining or disrupting those inequities that we have as an institution.
So just a quick definition, what's a deficit orientation?
Yeah, so for example, oftentimes somebody may say, well, students are succeeding because they come underprepared, right? In school, they were not. We blame the student in a sense, right? And so we acknowledge that that is something that is socialized in higher education, but we shift that to being, okay, yeah, there are disparities, but how can I better support the success of this student, right? What can I do in the classroom, in program, tutoring, et cetera, right? Mentorship, supplemental instruction, to take the focus off what the student can do to what we can do as an institution.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation.
Yeah. And then we focus on having strategic interventions that we try to scale, very specifically that I'll talk about in a bit, curriculum reform, decentering whiteness in how and what we teach, being able to think about how we can better nurture the development for our faculty and staff to be more equity-minded, and empowering them to have an actual research mindset to do changes in their curriculum or their practice with metrics that will be aligned towards closing those inequities as an institution, right? I'm not just going to do it because I think it's helpful, but I'm going to do that with data to be able to know that it was impactful or not in the ways that we're trying to move towards as an institution. So next slide. We also acknowledge that everyone is in a different space and place with this work, right? In the sense that we have people that have been doing social justice work for a long time and they know how to engage in this work, and others sort of on that other end who are unaware of what their role is in this work, right? And so we've been very intentional about moving from this monocultural orientation of thinking that things have to be done in one particular way towards helping bring awareness and recognition that we live in a very global society. We live in spaces where there are different cultures, different ways of being and expressing yourself. And so how do we, again, meet those needs with our diverse students? Next slide. And a lot of the work we've been doing for the last 3 years has been sort of in these spaces, especially around professional development, and making sure that this isn't like a check-off list people do, but this is an ongoing process that allows folks to be able to engage in multiple ways, or based on where they're at in multiple ways, but all towards having more accountability and responsibility in closing those inequities that I began with. And the part that is also exciting is the work that Dr. Turner is doing. So we'll now hand it off to her.
Thank you. So Marco brought up a couple of different terms, and you asked for the definition of the institution performance gap or deficit mindset. I want to talk about the deficit mindset and also the institutional performance gap. So I'm going to tell the story first of all. So years ago, I know Marco, you've heard this plenty of times, but anyways, years ago, we took in a daughter, a child, and she had just graduated from 8th grade, and she was at the top of her class. And we were like, oh, wow, this is great. You know, everybody's clapping, you know, and everything, awarding her and everything like that. And she was at the top of her class. And so she came to stay with us because her mother was sick. So with her mother being sick, she stayed with us for the summer. So during that time period, what happened was that we ended up keeping her throughout the school year. So we enrolled her in school, and I was homeschooling some of my kids. So I was like, okay, well, you can help me out with homeschooling, you know, when you're free. So I remember one day, something as simple, I asked her to help the one child with the multiplication tables. Now, what grade did I say she just graduated from? 8th grade. And she did not know her multiplication tables. And I was like, how did she graduate from 8th grade without knowing the multiplication tables? And then that was disturbing enough. But then I remember one time I said, well, what time is it? Now, do that. Okay, so it's 10 o'clock. I said, what time is it? She looked around. I was like, there's a clock right there. I mean, I was doing something. She did not know how to tell time unless it was a digital clock. So one of the questions I always asked, was that her fault? Was that the family's fault? Was that the institution's fault? Because she actually completed everything that they required out of her and top of her class. But obviously what they were giving her was not what she needed. And so when she went to the next school, they could have had a deficit mindset. Blame the family, blame the child. But that's why we talk about there was something with the institution that she left. But the institution that she ended up going to, they did not take that deficit mindset approach. They're like, what can we do to bring this child back to where she should be? Now I'll tell you, you know what she does now? She's a college professor. Yes, that school worked with her. And so she's a college professor. And so that's just an example of institution performance gap. So that's one thing we're looking at, Madison College. We want to make sure that we close that gap. People always talk about that achievement gap. I hate that term because I'm like, no, let's look at what's behind all of this. And so one of the things that we do is we look at, first of all, we have the people that are in the classrooms, and we have different people from different areas where they see where there are inequities, where they see where things might not be fair, or they see areas where students are not being successful or they're not being retained. And so they look at what is the problem here or what could be a potential problem. So that's where action research comes in. And so when we look at this, one of the things I always like to say to people is that, first of all, you have to care. You have to care enough to want to make a change. But then after that, when you care, a lot of times people get ideas. Sometimes, do you ever see something where you're like, if they did this, that would work better? And so that's what I always tell people. If you have an idea and you have an idea what could make something better, then maybe you need to get involved with action research. And so we have action research on different levels. And right now we have people from different parts of the college that are involved in action research. So we started out with different communities of practice. And so that's when we work with the different people that are involved to develop the skills to, number one, to understand the equity gap. And then the skills to create a targeted intervention, I should say. And then we go to the classroom level. Sometimes people might see a problem in their specific classroom. So with that classroom, they're like, well, if we do this or that in our classroom, maybe we'll see where the students are becoming more successful. And then, so we have the communities of practice, classroom level, and then program or department level. So once again, on the way, maybe an hour ago, I saw someone who works in a school of nursing, and I said, well, do you see any place that there could be improvements? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, you know what, you need to talk to me. Mm-hmm. And so that would be another person to talk to. And then system-wide, sometimes we see problems in the system. And so these are the people that we work, people are coming to us and they're saying that, you know what, I see this problem And I think that if we do such and such and such, that problem can be solved. So what they do is they do research. They find out, they identify what the problem is, and then they implement a change, or they implement something, whether it's in their classroom, in order to make that change, in order to reduce the inequities that we see and eliminate that institutional performance gap. Anything else? For that one, should I keep on going?
No, keep going.
Okay, okay, so we're gonna keep on going. So right here we have different examples of, we actually have 3 examples of different action research projects that are actually going on right now. So first one I'll talk about is one of our professors, faculty members, Dixie Burns. I don't know if any of you are familiar with her, but the name of her is Neurodiversity and Mental Health Inclusion at Madison College. And one of the things that has been found is that people of color so many times are not identified as being neurodiverse. And so, I mean, I said identified, but they're not diagnosed. So therefore, if you're not diagnosed, are you able to get accommodations? Are you able to get the assistance that you need? And so many times they're not diagnosed. And there's that stigma around neurodiversity. And there's this umbrella term for a lot of different things that people deal with. And so that's one of the things that she's working on, is that one of the examples she gave, she said one of her students came up to her after class and they said, you know what, I'm really sorry, it's not you, it's me. And they told that, they're like, you know what, this is what I deal with, I can't concentrate, I can't, and so they're like, it's not you, it's me. And she's like, you know what, if I knew this, I could have helped you. And so she's working towards removing the stigma, or like if someone is dealing with that, even if they don't feel comfortable saying, getting accommodations, things like that. So right now, she has created there's a, what do you call it? A
Workplace affinity group.
Yeah, there's an affinity group. Yes, thank you. And so she has one for faculty members also, and for students. And so they can get around it. How much nicer is the people that, they understand what you're dealing with, what you're going through. And so not just that she's creating those groups, but she's also doing trainings, because so many times faculty members aren't familiar with it. I teach culturally responsive practices, and this morning one lady was saying, one of the faculty members was saying how she had a student that just totally froze when it was time for the class. I mean, she froze when it was time to take a test. And later on, it was found out that she had, she was dealing with neurodiversity, but she hadn't told anyone. But it was great because this faculty member was familiar with it. And so she's like, you know what, just relax, take your time. You can leave out the room, you can come back. And she aced the test. But without that faculty member being, familiar, would she have just said, okay, we'll go, or whatever. And so that's some of the work that's being done right now with action research. And then we have this one here is like Carrie Schumacher, used to be Carrie Baggs, and Paul the White. You may have had either one of them for classes, but it's called The Impact of Proactive Faculty Advising on the Success of Underrepresented Community College Students. So in their program, what they do is in IT. Each semester, they would have faculty advisors. But what would happen is each semester they would change advisors. And so they said they remembered how one student said, why did my advisor drop me? They didn't like me or something. And they're like, no, that's not it. It's just kind of like each semester they were automatically assigned. So it wasn't whether they liked them or not. So they wanted to know, hey, if they have the same advisor throughout the 2 years, so that advisor gets to know them, they're familiar with them, and they're also comfortable with that advisor, will the students be more successful? And so they're in their second semester, and I met with them this morning, and they're already getting some data to see. They are seeing some differences, but like any action research, sometimes you're going to see, oh, it's working. Sometimes you might see that it's not working. But what they'll do is try something else or add something else to it, because we are so serious about the success and retention of students. And then this last one is analyzing the digital badge effect on African American and Black and Latino Hispanic male students. And this one is done by Dr. Robin Nickel, And have any of you heard of the digital badges?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, great. Now, to be honest, I heard of them a couple of years ago, but I didn't know all that it involved. And I didn't realize that you can post them on LinkedIn, post them on Facebook, and employers take note of those badges. And one of the things that she found was that I believe that more Black and brown students actually get those badges. And the employers do look at those. So she wanted to know, number one, about the success and retention, and also why, how important, talk about how important they are. And just recently, we were having a meeting, and she came to the office, and she was so excited. And she was saying that because she's interviewing different students. And she said, there's a student that I interviewed, and he said he was so excited about having this badge. And he said it made him work harder because he showed that, he let his family know that he got his badge, and they were like so congratulatory and things like that. And he said it made me work harder. I was so proud of what I did. And so things like this are happening in our college right now, and we're working in different areas to close what we call the institutional performance gap. We as an institution want to do all that we can to help students be successful. And like I said, not to have that deficit mindset and blame the student. Think you back to the young lady that told you that now she has a doctorate, she's a professor. And if that school would have taken that deficit mindset towards her, blame the family, blame the student. And she's a person of color, okay? So blame the family, blame the student, but they didn't do that. They helped her and got her where she is today. And so.
Yeah. So this is where we want to think about after all we've shared, how can we strategically, oh yeah, go ahead, Nick.
So, sorry, catch my voice. So I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
In regards to, how does this compare to RISE? Because this sounds like the RISE umbrella that I'm under right now, like the TRIO programming. Are you guys working together with them as well?
So their RISE focuses specifically on students, right? So they live under the student affairs umbrella.
Okay, and you guys are on
And
the
we're-
faculty
yep,
side,
exactly.
okay.
So we're trying to really do what RISE is doing with students, but empowering faculty to also do that, because not all students are in RISE services, right? We know RISE is effective. We know that it's amazing, has an amazing impact on students, but not everyone has access to that because of the requirements or their level of engagement. So different parts of the house, so to speak. And so we're working on.
I'm sorry, one moment.
Yeah.
I make a motion to extend the time by 10 minutes.
15, I thought.
5:07. So 5:07.
Oh, I was 7,
I
okay.
talked too much, sorry.
No, you have 7 more minutes. We can
7
still-
more minutes.
We can still take that motion, though.
Yeah, I just added on. I make a motion to extend the time to 5:17.
Okay, a second.
I was gonna raise my hand in
Second by
favor
Senator
anyways.
For vote by unanimous approval, if no one disagrees, then the motion passes in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Motion passes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
Marco.
no,
I just
sorry.
heard the bell.
Same.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
Yeah, so just different focus areas.
okay.
I would also say that as amazing as some programs are, there's always room for growth,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
And so part of our next phase is working with student affairs programs like RISE to be able to think about what gaps do you have, right? And how can we use models that we're using for faculty to be able to empower your team to make sure that all students are also succeeding in the same ways. But great question.
And that was my second question was, are you guys using, what do they call it? Model programs, the
Evidence-based
tried and
practices.
true programs?
Yes,
Sorry,
yes.
what's it?
Evidence-based programs?
Yes, thank you, because it was just leaving me. Today's a long day and I didn't get much sleep last night.
Yeah, so all the work that we've been doing has been founded based on scholarship that already exists. The difference is that we try to localize that to Madison College, right? One thing that we also should name is that there is not a lot of research at two-year institutions, because generally two institutions are not research institutions like UW-Madison, which is a research one institution with high-level research. However, there is probably a handful of researchers in the nation that focus on community colleges, tech schools, two institutions, but they're like California, New York. There's nothing in the Midwest. Aside from Chicago, has some stuff bubbling up. So our approach is really thinking about how do we fill that gap for the Midwest also, right? In a sense of, yeah, we know models that are effective in these larger cities, but how do we localize it, contextualize it, and be effective in Madison, to be able to make some tweaks and also have similar outcomes. But yes, so things are all based on things that have been researched for the communities that they're serving.
And
And
when,
I'm just to add something that, and some of these researchers are actually writing it up so it can be published. So the work that they're doing is really going forward.
when you guys were listing the populations earlier, did you say the indigenous population?
It was not listed.
Because I didn't hear it. That's, I was gonna mention that.
Yep. So in the slide it is not, but the rates are also the same for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that something that you're going to add?
Yeah,
Okay.
we will. I apologize, that was not there. It should have been.
And the only reason I'm asking is because I just had an experience with this with a student in a class and they wanted to apply for something and they're like, what do I check? And they didn't see indigenous on there and I was like, I'm sorry, check everything. And
Yeah.
then, I'll try and help you figure out what's going on here.
Yep,
So
yep.
thank you guys, appreciate it.
And just for some clarity, too, the Division of College Culture and Climate just recently hired in, or not, it's a rebranded position as a tribal liaison position.
Yes, that would be Michaela.
And so we've been closely working with her to think about how do we integrate more of the work that exists already with other tribal nations and bring that to Madison College to open up access to for students that come from those areas.
Actually, that is something that has been a particular personal charge of mine.
Awesome.
I'm from Menominee Nation, and that has been something that I've been working with through the student position for a while now. For one, I see a need for better communications with the tribal colleges themselves because ultimately there's a large distrust of Indigenous communities to come to a non-Indigenous institution. And this was something I actually brought up yesterday in our DCRC meeting. And through some recent talks and with some other faculty here at the school, I identified a way where maybe we could try to bridge that. Because one of the major things I brought up is that we don't also want people to be invasive on our little lands that we have left. So we don't want them treating our places like tourist stops. So they're not as welcome on our lands as you would like to think. And it's just because we want to maintain the little sovereignty that we have, our autonomy that we still have. But we want to share it and we want to grow and continue to express ourselves in the larger world and communities, but through our lens. To maintain our autonomy, we do not think that having so many sources coming towards us is the beneficial way. So you'll see many people from our communities taking on a speaking role and speaking outward instead of calling in because of the fact that we are maintaining what we have left in our communities. So that is a process that I am currently working on with something more significant. I actually just reached out to Michaela to talk to her about this pathway that I identified, which will actually be greatly working with technology because that was something I noted 2 summers ago that the Wi-Fi hotspots actually work in Kashina, which would be the capital of the Menominee Nation. So if it's able to reach areas like that, there's potential for reaching more Indigenous students and forming better connections with them. And this is something I'm also dealing with NASA. One of the things that I'm trying to push for is us to go hybrid so that we can serve our communities. I've also discovered that our community, the highest concentration of population is not at this campus or anywhere in the metropolitan Madison area. It is actually Reedsburg over by the Dells. That has almost twice as much as this area does. So without that technological availability, we are not reaching and serving our own community. And that was something that I've had to bring up to our advisors, like, no, we are underserving our community ourselves by doing this. And then I had 2 students. There was Adriana, which I thought had graduated, and another member of the Ho-Chunk Nation, his name is escaping me right now, but he and her both mentioned that, yeah, they actually don't come to the meetings because of the fact that it's inaccessible to them. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, do you have a direct response? Otherwise, is your response direct?
No, I
Okay.
just got one.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm so grateful to connect with Michaela because she has amazing ideas and it sounds like you do too. And access is a huge issue, right? So knowing sort of how do we bridge that the gap is important. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for being receptive.
And then,
Well, is there like incentives or what's that called? The incentives or what teacher or faculty be penalized for not reaching a certain goal?
Accountability.
Is there?
No, not yet. So right now, that's sort of the shift that we're in as a college, in the sense we've acknowledged through different priorities strategically as an institution that the focus is on closing racial inequities. We are now trying to embed, what's that mean?
oh, that's right.
Oh, no, it's me. It's my lab.
Okay, sorry.
Trying to embed this into all that we do, so it's not seen as a separate thing, right? I think right now, there is intentionally not a punitive approach towards the work because we have very caring faculty that want to do better. Oftentimes, they just don't know what they don't know in a sense, right? And so right now, we're really trying to lay that foundational framework of, hey, here's the issue, here's some tools that we know are effective based on research and evidence. And how does that look like for you in your classroom, in your school, in your area department? And then hopefully, right, we don't have to get to a punitive approach. But there is, to my knowledge, no talk about having those thresholds yet.
And that with the action research, they are actually given grants.
Yeah.
To do the action research, so it's not just, up to $5,000.
Because it's work on top of the teaching load, on top of all that they're doing. We want to incentivize them, but also make sure that they're compensated for their additional labor. And oftentimes, because these faculty care a lot, it's a lot of emotional labor that goes into this work as well. Thank you for that question. Other questions or thoughts about strategic collaborations or partnerships?
I was just,
And we'll try to maybe let them finish it first if you can ask a long
no,
one.
I
If
can
you
wait.
want, Go for it. Yeah, just so they can, maybe they'll answer
Yep.
throughout the presentation.
I
Oh,
apologize.
no, we're done with the presentation.
Oh, you're done?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. My apologies now.
So I thought I heard something about, oh, okay, so accountability, how are you guys looking at the accountability? I know you were just talking about it.
Yep.
In a sense, but are you guys, do you have any type of framework that you're looking at? Okay,
Yep, so the framework of the accountability is something that is in process. The one that, the approach that we're taking is making sure deans are setting clear expectations with their faculty around what they're expecting, and how they're expecting them to engage in the work. So as an example, up until probably this last academic year, a lot of the work that has been happening have been people that have raised their hand, faculty, programs, departments, saying, we want to do the work, volunteering, which is beautiful. And yet almost close to 200 faculty that have stepped up saying, I want to improve my practice. As of this last academic year, now deans are setting expectations saying all my programs will go through this process because we want to close those inequities as a school. And so that seems to be, so part of my job is working with all the teams to make 2-3-year plans of how we're going to make sure that this work gets trickled down into their school culture so that all faculty have the expectation that they will do this and deans hold them accountable of how they're engaging in the work.
I appreciate that, I really do, because I feel like that just helps the students, in the long run. I mean, that's the goal
That's the
here,
goal.
with the belonging and inclusive,
Yep. Exactly.
thank you.
Other questions?
Any questions online? Want to make sure we have it.
Didn't see any hand raises.
I have my screen up, sorry.
I guess one question is, is there any way that us as student senators or just general students that are attending medicine college can assist with this? Or is this really just more at the faculty level where you will deal with that side of it and then we'll deal with just kind of getting through our own programs?
I love that question. That is our ask. That's sort of what I'm wondering. I think part of the gap that we've had is that we've been so focused on faculty and staff. We seek feedback from students, right? That's part of the model, is like as you revise curriculum, make sure you're asking students their experience, making sure that that informs your next steps. But we don't have any sort of particular programming specific for students to engage in this work in other ways. And we wonder, what does that look like, right? What could that look like? Because we'd be very willing to work with in our different offices to make sure that we're empowering students to also be part of this work. I had heard, right, there's a new DEI VJ position in this part of the Senate. And so what is that? Yeah, how does
So this, I would like to say, is kind of a legacy piece from our prior racial equity chair position. this was actually a direct charge that I had, was to try to garner more conversation of racial equity from the students.
Yes.
However, it was unsuccessful because there was no attendance. There was only attendance the first day outside of Annette here. And that maintained through the conversation. But the major thing I had to say is it doesn't matter unless it's institutionalized. Unless this work is going to be continuing on, and it's going to be archivable and continuing to be built off of, it does not matter what comes out of this committee. You need to commit to the change. That's what I like to say.
My
Sorry.
question is, do you guys have like, do you guys create like surveys and like to know if the students are responding to your program, whatever? it is?
Yes, yep. So all faculty have been given survey templates and questions that they can do with their particular schools, class, or courses that they're teaching that really focusing on the work that they're trying to shift in their practice.
Okay. Did you see the question?
Yes,
Somebody
we have-
online too. I think.
Yeah, we have a question online from Senator Willis. Katrina, we're ready.
Well, I do appreciate your patience. My question is, for parents who have children who are actually not getting what they need, and as parents recognize early on to minimize those situations where a student actually is basically pushed through without getting all the skills that they need to start college, what recommendation would you have for students, for parents to actually reach out and try to be involved and make that change to actually get that improved?
You know, no. You know what, I will say this, the problem that we have so many times is that the schools present themselves as the experts. So many times the parents step back and they trust the system. And that's what happened even with my friend. We're still friends to this day, and she's like, she was getting all A's. She was getting all A's. So she was pretty much pushed through, but she was given the grades. And so I don't know what more she could have done, because at least in this situation, someone else might have an idea, but the girl did her homework because, whatever she got, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't what she needed in order to be successful at a higher level. So I don't know if someone else has it.
I think my only response is, I think we have to think about how do we acknowledge that a lot of the systems that we navigate are not built for a lot of different diverse communities. And how do we not innately just inherently trust systems, but critique them and question them to be better, to serve us better. And that's the approach that I sort of take in this work is like, yeah, we have, as if we look at the data for all of our students, yeah, C or better is almost 80%. But when we trickle that down and question what are the different demographics, clearly not all students are succeeding. And why is that? And we question, and from those questions come ideas of what we can do different and better to be able to close, which is the approach we've taken. I think I struggle to answer that question, Katrina, because I don't, one, I'm not a parent, and two, I haven't worked a lot with the K through 12 system. And I think that's a different animal within itself, right? Because, and part of what, when I've engaged with the K through 12 system, it has been more about advocacy, being involved with the school boards, bringing attention to the issues that I'm noticing, because that's sort of where the change happens at that level, is it really has to be school board down. I feel like at a higher ed institution like Madison College, faculty have a lot of power in the sense of how they can influence what is done with policy practice. And it's not just district board, it's not just cabinet, even though they are powerful entities, faculty voice is really valued. And people listen to what faculty are doing and saying, and that informs a lot of what then gets identified as a strategic priority, as a policy practice that's developed, et cetera. Which is why I struggle to answer that, because I think they're just different systems that are built differently, and I think the approach you would take would be different. I don't have that experience, so.
So you're saying the numbers are.
Wait. I had a follow-up to my question, please. Excuse
Okay, we'll
me.
let her do the last one since we're pretty much at time.
No, I wanted to follow up with what he just
Your
said,
follow-up.
though.
Mhm.
Hold
Yeah,
on,
please.
Kai.
Yeah, I'm holding on.
Okay, no, the only reason I mentioned that is because, first of all, we have dually enrolled students at Madison College. We have the Gateway to College program at Madison College. Now, my son is an adult, but I was asking that question because I have students that approach me because they're having troubles with their students who are considering or who are attending Madison College as a dual credit student, which also can impact their academics on our side at the college. So I was just trying to bring that up as something that, even if it is not currently something that the college feels is a priority or is at the forefront of what we're looking at, it's still a consideration because we do have dually enrolled students here. And sometimes some of them get sort of pushed over on Madison College and they lose their IEP because they're now at the college and no longer within the regular school district. But thank you.
Yeah, no,
Thank
no,
you so
let me quickly respond to that because I don't want this to get lost. You're correct. There is a significant increase in our dual enrollment students, right? And part of what we're proposing as a grant study is to assess and evaluate who's getting access to dual enrollment because there are different demographics that are getting access because it's a powerful program. I wish I had dual enrollment when I was going to school to graduate high school and have an associate's degree or transferable credits. But that's one issue, who's getting access to dual enrollment. And the other issue is that a lot of our faculty, similar to what I just shared, don't have the experience of working with students that come from that age demographic, right? And so they're not able to support them in the ways that they need because their skill is different. And so how do we better learn from those students and what they need to inform professional development for faculty so they can better be prepared to support that increasing rates of enrollment that we have from dual enrollment areas. So thank you for adding that additional context to dual enrollment, Katrina. But yeah.
Yeah, so thank
for
you
coming.
both, for coming. So
Thank you for
Marco
coming
Torres
so
Miranda and Dr. Michelle Turner, thank you both. I do believe the one last thing before we end this is we also had an update online from Vicki Weber to just say, everyone please take a look at the IDI assessment and prepare for our session next week. So we'll get to that. Don't worry about that. But
Is it on the agenda?
No, but there's space to make room for a conversation like that.
Thank
So
you.
Thank you
Yes.
guys for coming.
And if you think of other ways to get involved, you know where to find us.
You definitely do.
And leave chocolates. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we do, chocolate. They're good kind.
Have a good day. Okay, so moving on with our agenda, that'll be to the reports of officers, advisors, and standing committees. Executive Council and President reports. I'll be subbing in for President Michaud, who is still on vacation after coming back from DC. I believe he's currently in New York right now, and he'll be coming back, for our next week, and he'll be present. And business will resume as usual. I think the one thing that we were discussing that could come up next week and will be coming up today's meeting is a kind of a structuring of the Senate. And I think the one thing that I think you would approve on, and we're not sure about this, but I think you would agree that it's kind of all hands on deck for some of the things that are coming up here. The 3-year plan, the Senate election, updating our website for Wolfpack Connect. These are some higher priority items that do need, our immediate attention. And these things are coming up. March 1st is the deadline for the 3-year plan. Our Senate election, our deadline for submissions will be March 3rd. So we need to get all these things in place. All this is coming up with the legislative seminar, which we had a big piece on for the paper. So a lot of big things are happening and we're going to be moving on, transitioning into our next Senate year, but we do have to get these big ticket items taken care of, and we're going to have to do that together. And I think that's something that President Michaud would approve of. So that's it for now. He'll have more reports when he's back, I'm sure. So moving on to Administration and Finance Committee, myself. We didn't talk much about it because we're mainly going to be talking about the 3-year plan. But the one thing on the ELT side is that we're working with how ELT structure is going to be with their club liaisons and how that's going to fit into our own position with inclusion and belonging. And perhaps there's some intersections there about how we could collaborate on those 2 positions, about getting more involvement with clubs, because ELT is kind of the gateway to interacting with clubs because they're the one that manage all of them, the funding, the requirements for being a club, and just kind of generally any sort of administrative forms. So if we can work with them to try and get an in on clubs, and maybe we can increase participation in overall at Madison College. There's also UCG, which is hiring for an intercultural club coordinator, I believe is the name of that position. So they'll be trying to restart that, and if they can get that position implemented, then perhaps that's more involvement at the club level, and then we can have our own input about how we're supposed to increase involvement overall, whether that be in clubs or just, any event on campus. But that's all my updates for that one. So end of that report. VP Juf for Legislative Affairs.
Yeah, I've not meet with my committee this week, but I've been working with Advisory Green and getting our the letters drafted and edited. So we're looking at sending the letters tomorrow and then doing a follow-up for the times to meet with the representative during the legislative seminar, like end of May report.
Wait, sorry, as a follow-up to that, do we have anyone confirmed at this point in time yet, or still waiting on those?
What do you mean?
Like, is anyone confirmed yet, or just waiting for responses right now?
No, I'm gonna wait for responses because
Okay.
the letters have to go with me calling. I'm gonna be calling
okay.
on the phone. so-
Gotcha. Okay, and then that's all gonna happen on Tuesday, correct?
No, like, by Monday latest, I'm gonna confirm the times.
No, I mean to say that we're meeting with them all on Tuesday, the 20th.
Yes.
Yep, okay,
Yes,
just
but
confirming
it's
for some
like-
people that may not have.
It's,
No.
it's like different times that they were gonna be available, so I have to do that to know. Instead of just going and waiting on somebody, like we'll go to somebody that says they're available at 9:15
Mhm.
versus somebody who's available at 9:30.
Gotcha.
Like you do the things first, like just do according to the times they are available,
Okay.
so.
Sounds like good work, so we'll wait on that. Team Development Committee, oh, sorry, any further questions? Or, no? Okay, Team Development Committee, VP Crowder.
So team development has not met. We will. Oh, okay. So we will be posting a meeting time shortly, but I did want to share an event that's going on this weekend that I'm hoping some senators will attend. It's the award-winning play meeting, which is a meeting between Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and kind of like a hypothetical, what if? It's a powerful play, and what's really neat about this one is that we are also going to have a talk back with it. So we're going to have community leaders here from around Madison, and then we're basically going to talk I guess I'm trying to think of the right word. The talk back is basically like analyzing it and looking at the situation and a what if, and there will be some curate questions from BSU, and then there will be the audience participation as well as we'll be able to ask questions like of the actors, but I'm gonna get you about how the actors felt doing these types of things. Or, acting it out, and then also the community leaders that are gonna be here. Kennedy?
Is that what Jimmy was asking you about my search last one?
Yeah.
When is it here? in
Yes.
the theater?
So it's at the Midby Theater. The tickets are free. It's open to the entire community, so you can bring your whole family. However, you do need to pre-register. There's a showing at 2 p.m. There's a showing at 7 p.m. Anyone that is
What
volunteering.
time is that?
7,
What day?
Saturday.
Is it too late?
Okay, oh.
No,
Yeah, it's not too late.
no.
You got 2 temps, right? 2,
Yep.
12, and 7.
Yep. And if you,
I'm sorry, please no.
if there's anyone interested in helping out at the event and volunteering, we would like you to be there by 1 o'clock. If you're staying for both showings, you will get to enjoy a pizza party as well. And it'd be nice to know ahead of time so that I can make sure there's enough pizza there. And that is, otherwise, the only other thing is that Sean, Advisor Green and I met today briefly and started talking about the team development aspect of things. And I'm sure we're gonna meet again next week, and then start to hone in more on what team development needs to do. And one of those big things, like you were mentioning, what do I call you? VP Burrito. Is, the things that we need to get done. And one of those things is reviewing our training materials and making sure that they're up to par for when we have the new senators come on. So, end of my report. Thank you.
Any questions to VP Crowder? No? Okay. Public Relations Committee, VP Malone? From online? You may have trouble speaking, is what it seemed like.
For the public relations report, I did not have a meeting today at 2 p.m. The next meeting will take place on Thursday, the 15th at 2 p.m. via Teams and in the Student Center office. In addition, he still needs to recruit more members to the Public Relations Committee. The updates to the Senate website We'll be ramping into high gear this upcoming week. Senator Stacey Burner will be providing you updates on the design of the Senate t-shirt. Finally, I will be doing a spotlight in the newsletter for bills and resolutions that have passed. And that concludes his report.
And just, okay, we have a question from VP Carter.
I'm just wondering with the t-shirt design, is this possibly an opportunity where we want to make it into a contest so that this MATC students, like it might be one of their designs that we choose?
I love that kind of stuff.
Plus it just kind of like promotes us too.
Do you have some rhetoric response?
I'm gonna answer with the fact that the t-shirt design, we currently have the old t-shirt, the Senate design, right? And we have this design, right?
Mhm.
The shirt's gonna incorporate this new design. And that's gonna be the main vocal point of it, right? Whatever other things you want to include are fine, but it's not the priority. That's the farthest thing down the road. The bigger priorities are, promoting the elections, helping, transition documents for all the officers. I'm gonna bring that up next week at the ET meeting to think about. So it's like yes, we want that new design of that shirt, but I want us to have clear expectations that is not the main priority by any means. But I think.
Yeah, and I
think that's a great idea though about a contest. I really think that would be, I really think that if anything, even if you don't get to it, lay out a path that the next Senate, if you guys don't, I'm not just saying if you don't get to it, you lay out past what they can, because that's a solid idea of engaging, getting student engagement, promoting our brand, getting that awareness. But how could you relate that with maybe collaborating with, we just had this amazing event with Winterfest, right? So that's a solid idea, but I just want us to have clear expectation of where the t-shirt falls.
Yeah, I didn't think it, I'm sorry.
No.
I wasn't not at all thinking as far as we needed to get that done right away. My brain just automatically went to, it would have been really cool if we had a t-shirt that was designed by students, not necessarily for Senate as a whole, but to give out when we're tabling or when we have events and, if we go to the basketball game, maybe we throw a couple t-shirts in the crowd. And the fact that it's designed by a student, like this may be a separate t-shirt matter than the other one. It could just engage, like you were saying, the word engage people more about what Student Senate's about.
Yeah, and I think we can
There's
have.
can I comment? I'm sorry. There's I saw people signing up in the Senate, but how can we get them to come in? That's the other question I have here. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many members, even with BSU, like, you see the members online, there's a lot. But do you know, what are they member to? Like, are they just member by name? Like, how, how do we get them from that website to, like, the Wolfpack Connect to in person coming to,
I think we should add that as a future agenda item,
Was just gonna suggest
probably
that.
after Dr. Grady's meeting.
Yeah, so these are all good ideas. I think we can talk about it strategically in the executive council meeting, and then we'll bring it to our next general assembly meeting pending President Michelle's approval. So that'll be the next thing there. But good ideas. These are things we want to talk about. We'll have room to talk about it later for the internal operations. So just save those thoughts, put a pin in them, and we'll move on for now. So on to the advisor report. Advisor Green.
I guess I would say the only thing that I really need is I sent out an email to all the everyone that I had signed up for the legislative seminar. I just need that travel waiver. I know that some of you have filled it out before, and sorry to try to fill it out again. But it's just, as I stated in the email, in case of emergency, who I contact, what information I might have to share, say if something did go wrong to a paramedic, certain things like that. But yeah, it's where we're going, when we're leaving, when we're coming back, all very basic, straightforward stuff. I know a couple of people have submitted it. But yeah, that's, I just found that out that even though it's in town, I still have to get that, from everyone going. Besides that, I also shared the seminar agenda stuff, pass that stuff along. now that we finally have that. So, we have that, and, if anyone needs, I will be driving, for Monday. I know, VP Malone was interested in a ride, but, if there's interest in getting a ride down there, you know, we can like meet up here at the college, then I can take about, what, 3 people with me at least, and then we head down there for the day, and whatnot, and then do something for the same thing for the next day, so.
Where precisely are we gonna be meeting as a collective group?
And honestly, every time I've done it, we just met right in the front of the Concourse Hotel, right inside of it.
Okay.
I think maybe Sarah Willis would maybe have better information from her memories and experiences with it.
The only thing I would just suggest, meeting at the Madison Concourse, because if people are coming from the north side or the east side, yes, I can see them coming by Truex and potentially riding with you. But anybody that would potentially be on the bus and come past the Capitol, you've already passed the hotel, so you might as well just go to the hotel. And it's in the Wisconsin room. Just come up to the mezzanine level, and that's where the check-in is. We can meet there. There's Starbucks downstairs. So I'll be at the hotel right away each day because we got a meeting Sunday night and then the next 2 days. So, yep.
Yeah.
Whatever works
I
for everybody else is great.
Yeah, I think, from what I understood from, Senator Clearwater, they were saying meeting when they're there, right?
Yeah.
Versus, cause, yeah, I know that again, that's why I'm throwing out the option for transportation. I know that some people are not anywhere close to where I am, and going to Truex isn't even helpful, but I'm just throwing it out there as a helpful thing. So, but yeah, and it sounds like Senator Willis, we're thinking somewhat the same mindset, right?
Can I add something
Is this related to the seminar? Yes.
to the seminar? Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm experienced with the seminars, I want to add something in. With transportation last year, like Ellie was saying, if we get to like pack in the packing, because like a whole day packing, their last year was $15, so they refund us. So I just want to put that across. The school refund you.
Thank you for sharing.
Get the reimbursement.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, definitely, yeah, that's not.
I get reimbursed, so that's why I was saying.
Yeah, good, that's a good thing to remind.
Good point.
Thank you.
Oh, and Senator Willis, I remember.
Oh, yes, Katrina, Senator Willis.
This is out of order, but I just wanted to say, anybody that's going to be traveling tonight, there are tornadoes that are going on right now and tornado warnings. So please pay attention to your cell phones if you get any alerts. And I wish everybody safe travels home.
Appreciate you,
Thank
Katrina.
you.
Thank
I
you.
didn't know about that.
Tornado. Wow.
And is that the end of your report?
Yeah, sorry.
Any further questions? Okay, no further questions. Moving on. Student Activities Board update. We will not be having a meeting at the Student Activities Board this week, but currently what's going on is that we'll be preparing for the 3-year plan. We'll be hearing other organizations' 3-year plans. And honestly, it's good to witness other people's plans so that we can have some ideas about that. And let me finish it on, or is this directly related to 3-year plan?
No.
All right, okay, give me 1 second and I'll get through it. The other thing I just wanted to say is that at the SAB meeting, we'll be voting on the transportation and commissions fee, raising it up from $27 to potentially $35 or even $46. And that'll be a one-time fee per semester, I believe. Yep. So that's per term that you're attending. It is less during the summer. I don't remember the number for that one, but I do believe it's slightly less during the summer with the new restructure, but that's something that we'll be voting on. My intention is to vote on to increase it to 35 and have like a structure to increase it by $8 every single year for 3 years, pending a review on a yearly basis. So that's the idea. I didn't tell you yet, but right. So I'll pitch that tomorrow. But yep, and that's something that we'll probably approve, or maybe we'll see if it'll be approved by the 16th. So there's the 2 things going on. And Senator Clearwater, sorry.
Can you cover, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to let you know that I needed to touch base with you on SAB and related topics when we get a chance. That's all.
We can talk briefly after this meeting.
Okay.
I was gonna say, can you, cover why they're looking at raising their transportation fee?
Yes, mainly it's because of covering the shuttle services and including Metro actually too. So these are the kinds of things that for the transportation fee, it covers the use of Metro services and the use of the shuttle from Goodman South to between Goodman South and our Truax main campus. So that's the kind of thing we want to continue support funding for. And if we increase the fees, we'll be able to continually, have the access to the shuttle for certain students. So we just want to make sure it's able to do that. It was previously at $46 and they decreased it due to the pandemic and not having enough people to ride the shuttle. But our shuttle services are approximately 80-ish
There's
percent
really
usage. Yeah, so it's back up. And, it's at 80% of usage because, well, we don't have, our full 100% of students attending back from pre-pandemic levels. So that's part of the reason why it's there. It's slightly down if you compare normalized between the populations, but it's mostly back up in action. I think that if you just invest a little bit of money in it, we'll get some of the returns and people are using it now currently. So
And it also accounts for the B cycle too. That's included in there.
another interesting point I have about that, but that's another day for a conversation. Anyways, any other points you'd like to add since a fellow SAB member? No? Okay, if any questions? Okay, looks like we're all out of time on that one. Textbook Affordability Committee, Senator Sierra Brunner.
Sorry, there's no report. My next meeting's not till the 27th, I believe.
Oh, dang, okay.
T, can you wait a second?
Sure.
Wait, I think.
I can just go to the bathroom.
Oh, is this
Okay.
related to T or?
I can't remember who it was. Can I ask you?
Sure.
It's more of a comment. I can't remember who brought it up, but it was in regards to art supplies.
Oh.
That was me.
So when you are at the next meeting, can you find out, and I brought it up today too, at the Vision 2030 meeting that I was at, about how we build a relationship with the art supply place that the students are supposed to be using so that they are able to pay for it out of their financial aid.
Mhm.
We can follow up with you too if you don't.
Yeah, I was just
know.
gonna-
We're gonna have to work on that. I'm on this, maybe 3 of us now.
Stacy, if you have a chance,
Sierra, actually.
Sierra?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It says Stacy over there, so that's.
Oh,
When you get the chance to, you, Annette, and Kai, it would be wonderful to have a conversation about what it is that financial aid is kind of thinking as a viable option for doing that. It's been brought up prior, but I don't believe you were present for the last meeting. So, that maybe it's just good to start, a conversation on it, I think.
yeah, we can loop you in and we can work on something together and we're gonna have some documents to follow. So something definitely to look at your bills for next week. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Follow up? No? Not hearing anything. Regional Outreach and Engagement Committee, VP Malone, I don't believe you met on the Friday, is that correct? Maybe there is no report. Or say otherwise, if I'm wrong. Yeah, we're still not hearing you. I see that you're unmuted, but I don't hear any sound. Well, VP Malone, we can always type in the chat about this, but at this point, we'll just move on and wait for your written report.
This is, the next meeting is this Friday, the 9th, where they will be discussing goal number 2 of the 3-year plan.
Perfect. That's exactly what I told you to do. Okay, love that. Any commentary? No commentary. Moving on to Transportation Analysis Committee, that is currently vacant. I might do my best to try and do some of that work after a 3-year plan is passed, since we're revamping that committee structure anyway. So just something to keep in mind. Student Parent Support, VP Crowder.
So we basically just talked again about the survey. We talked about a lot of things actually, but I'm focusing on the fact that we discussed about the survey that's going to be going out to students. It's going to be going out to student parents, students. So like basically we need everyone to respond. There's going to be an area there too where we're looking for feedback from the faculty. I can't talk today. From the college employees. There we go. The whole broad spectrum of them. So that would be the main thing that's happening. So we had a really good meeting. We met this past Wednesday. And I would say, oh, and we're still looking for an additional member for that group. Otherwise, end of report.
Okay, keep that in mind for when we talk about our applications. Moving on, if there's no questions, didn't hear anything. Public Safety Advisory Committee, Senator Kessel absent. Reports from regional and metro campuses, Senator Stacy Breyer for Reedsburg.
No report. And I just wanted to let you know, I just got a notification that there's tornado warning in Dane County.
Yeah, we keep getting that. Thank you for letting us know. It's gonna be rough out there. I'm gonna just stay here a little bit longer. But yeah, thank you for that. We do, for all our other campuses, I'm just gonna go through it just for the sake that, you know, we should honor our campuses, but Watertown, no senator, it's vacant. Portage, no senator, it's vacant. Port Atkinson, no senator, it's vacant. And Goodman South, no senator, it's vacant. That is one area to start talking about for a 3-year plan of regional engagement and advocacy for our metro, our regional campuses. Something to think about. Reports from College Assembly and Shared Governance Councils. College Assembly, Senator
No report.
No report. Academic Council, currently vacant. Diversity and Community Relations Council, VP Crowder.
So we met on Wednesday as well, and we had a lot of discussion surrounding the training that we had as to how we felt about the trainers, if we wanted to utilize them for our accountability aspect that we're looking at for I cannot say that word, for instructors. There we go. Let me switch to that. And what was interesting is their training was really, it was well done. I will give them that 100%. But I had to make sure that I also pointed out that the training was done by all Caucasian people. However, it's you know, our school is multicultural, and that I wanted to make sure that that whoever was training us, that we had a couple different identities in the room, so that the majority of Madison College staff is white. So as far as I can see, I mean, there is a lot of staff here that are other ethnic backgrounds, but I just think it's really important that when you're talking about diversity, that you actually have some of that training by lived experience, by someone who's had lived experience, because they offer another perspective on it. So my lived experience, of course, is going to be different than Danny's, for example, but it just helps, you know, especially if people can identify with you. And so we had a long discussion about that, and just might be looking at other options for people, but more or less we're going back to them and seeing what all they have available to offer. End of recording.
Any questions for the council? No questions. Moving on to Facilities Planning and Investment Counselor, Senator Willis. Senator Willis, you're here?
I'm here.
Okay.
Facilities Planning and Investment Council met yesterday, and I'm sorry, I was distracted because the storm is coming from Madison right
No worries.
now. And so, yeah, you sort of caught me when I was distracted. But anyway, we met yesterday and got an update from Cody White on the status of several other projects that were on the list of in the last 3-year plan. And he's continuing to revise that so we can come back and present as well. And we're also encouraging all the students to participate in SESI, the assessment that's going around. So we covered that as well. And we actually are planning not to meet again. We're going to skip our next meeting because of conflicting schedules. And our next meeting will be March 6th.
We really didn't emphasize.
March 6th.
And
Okay.
that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Senator Willis? Oh, hey, yep. We have Avila.
It's VP. So
How do you pronounce it?
Are we looking?
Oh, okay.
I just read on the clearing, there was some damages on the facility. Do you address those issues?
Oh, that's right.
Are you talking about in the architectural wing, like
So, yeah,
That's,
Yeah.
that was removed, correct?
I am not sure. There was a whole, section, on the clearing.
Yeah, so Kylie Phillips wrote an article about that. I can send it to you, Katrina. It's about, people are removing the paneling that attached to like some of the things that were on the walls. It was like the latches you screw things onto, and there's not really any like economic benefit that they found to it. Like they were just removing it as like acts of vandalism. We weren't really sure why. Did you hear about that?
No, but I'm just saying, that is wrong with so many levels.
You're breaking up a bit, Senator Willis. That might be due to the storm, I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, the storm is closer to you than it is to me. It's already gone past me.
Well, thanks for making me more scared than I needed.
No, but I'm telling you, there's a tornado warning until 6:15 here
Yeah.
in Madison. So that's why I was telling you all to be safe and be careful. Because
Yeah.
they've shut down all the programming on TV and they just have the news on about the storm because they're passing through. But anyway.
Would you repeat where they shut down?
Right now, they're saying that the tornadoes are coming through. It's in Madison, but it came through. The warning is for Dane, Green, and Rock, so it's heading south and east.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But no, I will reach out to the facilities.
We lost you
Yeah,
again.
last
Yeah.
year.
You might have to put it in the chat.
I will forward the information to facilities and check in so I can have an update next week.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Sorry,
most
I was just
welcome.
responding. Yeah, I was just responding to Stacy online. Moving on to the Finance Council by myself, Rito. The big update there is that I actually had a discussion with Bill Dotery, the academic registrar, and we talked about how he had like regional meetings with other registrars at other schools and talking about increasing the drop deadline for the 100% tuition refund. So the issue is that if you drop a class after school starts, you don't get 100% back of your tuition. You can only get 80% after the first day of class. And even if you did attend the class, let's say the class was at 6 p.m. that day, and you go to school at 8 o'clock, and you're like, oh shoot, this is the wrong class. I took chemistry, like the accelerated one instead of chemistry 1, and I didn't need to take that. Let me switch. Well, now you're going to be out 20% of your tuition because you just made a mistake on the enrollment. That's not really fair. Alternatives, you can use the swap feature, but some people might not do that. They might just drop it completely, and they're like, oh, we'll just drop it and do that. So like some of it's like knowledge of how to do that, but it's a complicated system. And people shouldn't be penalized for showing up on the first day, not knowing how the system works, and then getting charged 20% tuition for taking a class they never meant to take in the first place. That's the issue at hand. So we're having conversations about how our school will do it, and the Finance Council will be introducing a presentation to Danny's, Senator Hurst's committee on the 14th, and hopefully they'll vote it in because they have a love for student affordability because it's Valentine's Day. So if they vote for it, yes, then we'll take it up on the Finance Committee, and we love to keep for our own pocketbooks. So that's my update for the Finance Council. Any questions currently? None for there. Moving on, Information Technology Council still vacant, might not be for the future, but we'll see for you. Institutional Effectiveness Council, Senator Kessel, not here, absent. Student Affairs Council, permanently vacant, could not be, it could be filled soon if we have a Senate appointment perhaps. But moving on to our unfinished business, the 3-year plan discussion. For this one, I'm going to share my screen and I'll have to pull up the 3-year plan that I had. What we're working on now is the achievement from the Senate. I spent an hour trying to fill this out and I still didn't fill out everything that I think we've done. I only got to October for all the things that we've done from last semester. And we did quite a bit. So let me just turn my camera on, I believe. And then I will share my screen. I think I don't need my camera on, but we're gonna share anyways full screen. Can everyone see this? Sorry?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend Robert's rules of
Do I have a
order
second?
For how long?
Sorry, what?
How long?
for the entirety of this conversation.
Thank you. Second by Senator Clearwater. We'll now do a vote by unanimous approval. If no one objects, then this motion passes Hearing no objections in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't see any hands up online. Motion passes.
So I wanted to mention, the WSG paper. I shared that with the, parent committee.
Nice.
And they said that there was some interesting information on there that they didn't even have.
Oh, okay, I thought I was about to get a correction. I'm like, I
No, no,
didn't
no.
want to make another correction.
But what it got me thinking about, is that, are we missing somewhere with collaborations? I mean,
A little
you
bit.
know what I mean? I mean, not huge, but someplace it feels like we're not linking in. And if I hadn't been there, I would have never been able to share that with them. And I'm hoping from their survey that we're doing, that information will be shared back over. Do you know what I mean?
I did share it with Dr. Sylvia Ramirez, and she's on the, like the larger committee of people
Yeah,
that
this
goes
is
off.
the smaller one.
Right, yeah, but she's like the oversight, right? She presents, but she's not like the working group of that. And then I believe, oh, okay, so Katrina's just mentioning stuff about the WSG. But yeah, no, that is something. That you were a part of it, like on our work group that dealt with writing the WSG position paper, because if you weren't, you know, you don't get all the input. So maybe that's something. But for me, it was kind of just like getting it done. But yeah, maybe next year, now that we have a basis of like moving on for it, I think next year, that now that we know how to do things a little better, I think there'll be a lot more room for improvement and input in taking that. So definitely keep that in mind for the next year, or for anything else, honestly, really too, because this principle applies to other things. So yeah, good point. Did you have a hand up?
No, I do not.
Okay. Sorry, I thought maybe you did. But let's just go over some of these things. I'm gonna do a quick overview of all the things we accomplished. And please take a look at this document. It's just in the folder. I'll make sure to send it out later on tonight if I don't fall asleep immediately when I get home. But I'll make sure to send that out so you can like get down and dirty with everything that we've written here for the 3-year plan, because it's quite an extensive document. I believe it's currently 14 pages long. And this is just, I'm not even, you know, halfway done with it, maybe a third of the way done with our first draft on this. But for June, I think the first thing that we did, the first piece of legislation, was actually a big conversation that we had, was the Pride Month bill that we wrote. We had a lot of discussions about, you know, identity and social identity and like, you know, different affinity groups and, you know, marginalization, and how are we going to support groups like that on campus? You know, one of the things we're missing right now is Black History Month, and we haven't done anything to support that as a Senate yet. I mean, we've shown up to certain events, like, you know, we went to the Gallery Opening Night, but we should probably, you know, ideally have some like legislation and teeth behind some of the things that we say we're going to support.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we got to work on once we, you know, find some time for that. But these are the kinds of things that we're doing. For July, I just put that we completed a training course. For August, we have a lot of stuff going on. Like we did all the Wolfpack Welcome events, the Rise Workshop, the Student Leadership Retreat. Myself and Senator Willis, who's also the president of WSG, you know, travels to Moraine Park Technical College. That's like campus regional outreach. We didn't get to see students, not many students, but you know, we got to go there. What else did we do? Oh, we had the Protective Emergency Services Week, and then VP Priscilla Dawn, from a long time ago. It feels like so long ago. You know, she was there. She planned the bowling event, and then she had to, you know, dip out because you know she has her own dreams, her own goals for the nursing program. So those are things that we did, and then we actually, you know, with the Protective Emergency Service Week, we also set up the we did the flag setup for 9/11 events. We also, you know, went to certain campuses for campus fun days, Fort Atkinson and Reedsburg, and we might have even went to Watertown. I'm not sure about that.
Join the call.
What?
Look who joined the call.
Who's that? Hey, our president, truly from a different region right now. Are you in New York right now, Giovanni? President Michelle?
I can't see.
Can you hear us? Am I muted? I muted myself, but, well, okay, he'll comment when he can. Maybe he's just listening in
Yeah.
today.
If I would assume so.
Yeah, we say it's called summoned him when we talked about Senate. Okay, yeah, because he was the next up on there. We did a podcast that got discontinued because someone ran out of time. That was me. So it'd be nice to, well, we kind of already interviewed you as the Clarion, but maybe we'll find a way to get you in the radio studio. So that would be cool. But as you can see here, these are just examples of everything that we've done. So please take a look at all of this. And like, if I've forgotten anything, we want to make sure that, you know, you're represented for all the things we do as Senate. Because I definitely didn't get through everything in here. I only got through October, and I think I might even still be missing some things from October. But yeah, this is what I've been working on. Obviously, we're barely in February right now. So yeah, if there's anything that you want to write into this document, or even right now, let me know about that you think like, oh, we definitely should include that. Now is the time. So does anyone have anything they can think of like a big achievement that we should like put down?
I think we should definitely put down that we, as a student senate, supported our basketball teams, our
When was
women's
that?
and men's. That was, I can find the date of it. Cameron, do you remember?
Yeah, it was, I want to say it was December. I want to say it was like
Oh,
the
it's
week,
December.
the last week before the end of the semester. I think the first week of December, something like that.
All these Olive Gardens. I'm going to Olive Gardens. So interesting.
We also had the end of semester bonding, reflecting, enjoying each other's time.
I would try to keep in mind though, not to say it's not good, but what we're referring to is the accomplishments, right? So now here's a area that I see somebody debating if that's an accomplishment or not. I wouldn't say it's not an accomplishment, but I would say from having experience of being at these meetings, presenting one of these at a meeting, training people who have then presented, like Ella, that would be more of a thing we would not, maybe we would celebrate internally with
Okay.
each other,
I
like.
mean, I have no problem.
You know, but it's making sure that, you know, everything else so far as that you mentioned, great, you know,
Is that not team bonding though? Cause like, I feel like that's, isn't that?
then I would put that under, I would collectively summarize all of that and then put it as one chunk, right? And, you know, because if we're picking it down from, you know, team bonding is part of one of the jobs, right? So again, I'm not trying to, from one person's perception, you look at where you start, you look at where you're ending, it's an accomplishment, right? I mean, a team that you don't know to a team that's now has some history and has some solid foundation behind it. I'm not saying that's not an accomplishment, but I'm saying in terms of how you're presenting this to SAB, this is something you would more celebrate internally amongst us, like at the end, at the swearing in ceremony, for example, you would celebrate there because you're trying to also present the accomplishments that happened in part because we were given the money to do so, right? So, you know, we were able to get some of these things done because we had the funds to do it. We're trying to present our budget, which is trying to then, you know, so again, I would say, let's definitely be bringing that up as a thing for the swearing in ceremony. I mean, that's, does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but the more I think about it, internal team bonding, I mean, maybe we don't use the words of, you know, we had a party or whatever, but it's crucial for us to gel and to basically be able to accomplish things together. And you accomplish more when you have familiarity with people and you just, you know, feel more like a team. So I think we can choose some wording potentially.
Yeah.
That is professional wording to get it across that, you know, we worked on our professional internal. I'll come up with it, just let me know.
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's like a compromise here where like in a section, you talk about like internal, like strategic planning and then external facing, I don't know, like how communication with other people. Like, I think there's a strategic way to bring it up, because I get what you're saying, we will have so much time. I'm not gonna read through every single one of these. I think the presentation will be the support, this will be done beforehand, and then the presentation will be highlighting certain features. So maybe there'll be like one section where we're like, oh, so team development. Honestly, we could just go through each one of the subsections of the vice president. It's like, oh, here's what we did for like, you know, legislation that we passed. Here's what we did for, you know, like our 3-year plan, or that's really
And
not
now
what
we're
we do.
using the PowerPoint too, so this report is the report that goes along with the PowerPoint.
Yeah,
And that then goes along with
right.
district board, you know, so it's
So yeah,
it's creative,
Yeah, no
it's
worries.
creative. Come up with a creative way of doing it, and I would say, go for that, that's,
okay.
but it's just, again, it's about, we've got a certain amount of time, we're trying to say, hey, this is why we're
Okay.
getting X amount of money.
No, I will consider that.
And we can
because,
pick out the highlights.
Yeah, I think that's something that we'll do. And there's like, it's very picture heavy for a PowerPoint. So like, I can have like ideals, so we'll write it in there and then I'll present it. It's like all about selling that, right? So we got this. So,
And-
and you'll be there too.
And I was gonna say, like, as far as the aspect of attending a basketball game, I guess I'm looking at that as more of a Senate presence on campus.
Yeah.
And maybe it should be worded differently as well. I mean, because there are different events that all of us have attended. I mean, I know I try and wear my Senate jacket everywhere now, just to have a presence in the classroom. And then every now and then someone will be like, oh, you're with Senate, or do you know anything about this? So I think something about like having a presence, like we're here physically, obviously, but more people, I feel like learn who our senators are by attending different events, you know, and supporting the different events, like the play too, like the play we went to.
It's funny, even sometimes people think of you as, oh, she's the president of BSU, but also student senator, but also RISE, SAB member. So it's like people know you as different identities. And then it's funny when they figure out you do all of them. I don't know, just something interesting. Yeah, if anyone else has any other ideas, please feel free to contact me. Please feel free to, you know, like add it in, you know, I'll editorialize things. But for maybe some of our newer members, it'll actually help you understand some of the things that we've done. And then maybe it'll give you ideas to look forward to what we could be doing now together. So just something to consider. Is there any other ideas we have now or discussions about?
Did we ever put did you put the coordinator position in?
I was getting to, I think it's December.
Okay, that was December.
So it's like in there, but it's not really descriptive. It says like Legislation and Rules Committee Senate 3-year plan goal number 3, which is the inclusion and belonging coordinator. So I just didn't get to it. It just takes a while to think about that. I honestly thought I didn't think it would take this long, but I spent so long just thinking, well, like, what did we do? And then remembering like all these other little things that each of us did. I forgot to put WISCOR in there because I feel like that's, you know, we had some representation of WISCOR. So I'll, you know, put that in there, but next time, if there's anything we forgot, like, I think by this weekend, it should all be done. And then the first pass will be good for me and you to go over, and then our executive council, and then everyone, oh, not next week, the week after, huh? Because we have our, our training, okay, so.
And
I'll still try to get it done next
Dr.
week.
Daniels, I believe, is gonna be the week after, so if I remember correctly, so just keep that in mind, everyone.
We double check on his confirmation.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure, but I,
No, I'm not, it's not on you.
yeah, the 22nd, so yeah.
What about something about collaboration, like how we got the bill, the fee increase passed?
The fees in there, I didn't write, anything yet about like advocating for it, because we had until, when did we have until like November 17th for that?
But Senate worked really hard.
Oh, yeah.
to Come up with a plan, with them, but then also, you know, pitching it and.
Yeah, definitely, that's definitely gonna be in there.
That took up a big chunk of all of our time.
Yeah.
And then, the group of people that were visiting the regional campuses, I think Michael is kind of,
Do you want me to name them?
well, I don't know if you need to name people and things, unless you want to. But I think it's important to show that we were trying to get to the other campuses and to do things.
Yeah, I have Fort Atkinson and Reedsburg on there. Can we go to Watertown?
We went to Commercial Avenue.
Michael went to all of them.
Michael went to all of them? Props to him.
Like that's an example of something that you look at past 3-year plans, that's something that we put in our 3-year plans as well. Campus fun days, we presentation, like having a presence on there, so
Yeah, typically don't time.
you know, I'm not expecting you kind of be looking past all the past, like ways this were presented, but I am saying like, we do use the same things, it's just how it's packaged, right? So everything is open on the table to use, it's just, is how we present it.
Okay, yeah, and we can definitely do like a highlights reel of the events. It'll be like a whirlwind thing, like, here's all the things that we did, like, and then it'll be just like, this, you know, the best thing will be like, here's all the things we did, and that was just September, and then we'll go through the rest of the year. So I think that'll be like, I'll talk really fast too, because that won't rest. Okay, so,
Your skills are fantastic.
yeah, if you remember the day when I got fed up with reading the bill, and I was like, you know what, let's just read that real fast. But we're not gonna do that, but this is generally what we're doing, so now you know where it'll be. I'll make sure to send out a copy when I'm finished compiling it over the weekend, and you can take another look over it. I think we did enough work right now on this, so that's what I got for you on this specific issue. How do I stop sharing the screen? Stop sharing. Okay, got it. Oh, Stacy, I didn't see your hand.
It's gone now.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, if you want to have anything to say, just please go for it. And thanks, Sean, for sharing that. Moving on to internal operations. Do you want to make motions?
Yes, I make a motion to suspend Robert's Rules of Order, sorry.
You're good.
Just for the duration of this internal operation.
Can we modify that also to be just 15 minutes? Because I think this agenda item should only last 15 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't have the time in the first
We're
place.
gonna get time, yeah.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
Okay, yeah, so friendly amendment to make it 15, a second by, Washington? Correct, okay. Vote by unanimous approval, if no one objects, then this motion passes in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, motion passes, okay. Free for all.
We would do a hand up from Senator
Oh.
I don't even see that, yeah.
Senator Wilkin or Senator Willis?
Willis.
Willis, okay. Katrina?
No question. I was just saying, good job. We're good. No, don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, cool. Does anyone, so the reason why I brought this up is because internally, VP Malone, he wrote that, Michael wrote, we don't have enough senators in any of our standing committees to do work. And I think what happened is like, we had a lot of people, a lot of energy, a lot of buy-in at the beginning, and then we just kind of ran out steam over like that winter break, and then all these big things happened, and now we don't have people like on our committees. Like all of us have like, our dedicated member, but like, and I feel like all of us should have more play in some of each other's work. Because we're kind of spread thin right now, and we don't have enough people to do the work of the things we need to do, like the election's the big one for Maggie. My big thing's the 3-year plan. Your big thing is the end of year party and
revamping.
what's the other one?
A lot of big things here.
Going through the training.
Oh, the training, that's a big one. Yeah, so like you don't have a lot of help to do the training. And then what does Michael have the website? That's the immediate thing that needs to get on the website. And the Senate election marketing. Yeah, so we all should help on these
The
things.
Senate election marketing, that there's something specific, I kind of want to tap in on that one because, even though we're gonna formally like launch someone into the position for the IBC. I'm just gonna initialize it here. We're gonna need to, make sure that the people are aware that that's a position that they can run for this next Senate election. And I'm sure everyone's very well aware that I'm planning on running. So I'm also planning on transferring for fall. So both things are successful, I would be leaving anyways. So I would like to spend a lot of my time while kind of getting that running to also be trying to advocate for its continued position fulfillment. I don't know what to say to that there.
Or maybe turning it into a vice president position.
That was one of the things, you can get that ready by the time for the Senate election. It's just like all of our attention is being drawn out other places. And I'm honestly I took a lot of time today to just do the 3-year plan. So I don't know, just to present that in front of people. So like, that's part of it. Like we're pulling all our attention in many different directions.
Yeah.
So where do we focus in on that kind of thing? And that's the kind of thing I wanted to get at. Like, we need to pick our priorities. It's really attack on those few things until we get it done.
Maybe it's ideal if we do a itemized list of like individuals, like what independently what our goals are, and then we, convene on that and see where we can find overlap to help each other.
Where do I write so that everyone can see it? Because they can't see it if I go anywhere, right? Where's
Yeah, it's
that?
kind of hit or miss because right now the cameras aren't.
You can type it down and then share your screen.
Yeah.
Good idea. I'll type that down later.
Yeah, but one of the things too that I do have a problem with is just the scheduling. Like during my week, I'm completely blocked out. So even if I do want to contribute, I don't end up inside the meetings. It's not really, I can't like meet on the Fridays and Saturdays that I
That's
do the
happened to
work.
me too.
but, Like I can't make a meeting in Wednesday at 1 PM, I'm working by then, so. Like, it's like maybe some student senators have time to do things, but not
How
necessarily,
many credit loads are you taking this time?
yeah, well, I'm taking 12 only.
Okay.
Not-
Last semester he's taking 15, okay?
Yeah, so like, it's more like, work and, other, student obligations and it's like, what if like we do have like a couple hours, to spare our time, but we don't have the ability to,
Line it up with others.
yeah.
That was a big issue for me as well.
Yeah, like I couldn't go to the meetings to understand what's going on, so I'm not really sure how to fix that.
I feel like this could potentially be like a task list. I mean, we have so many office hours that we need to do. Do we maybe need to make tasks? And a task list maybe for each of our internal committees?
Yes,
And then
that-
people can pick up, of course, it would have to be detailed instructions on what's needed. But I think about like your skills, Danny, with the Mentimeter and helping to get that presentation. Oh, that's the other thing. We did a presentation for RISE.
Oh, yeah.
I put that in there.
Okay, good.
I didn't put Mentimeter in there, but I forgot about that.
But we
Yeah.
did an interactive presentation, so it wasn't us just talking at people. We got them involved in it too.
To have a better task list too, we're probably gonna want to have more fleshed out notes for more of our.
Sarah Willis has her hand up.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's Robert.
Yeah.
Just speak.
Yeah.
Speak your mind.
Oh, okay. Well, only thing I was gonna say, in the past, one of the things that did work was, and I think what we gotta do is have the flexibility so people who are not always in the same spaces together can still work on the same things, either have a digital version, like in Teams or somewhere. In the past, we used to have it on the chalkboard, or I mean, the dry erase board in the student senate office, the tasks that were priority and everybody could work on them, but yeah, I just think that there needs to be like a collective document so people can update and everybody knows what's going on and have access to the resources. So if they're not able to be at the meeting, they can understand what was going on and what the expectations are, what the deadlines are, et cetera.
I agree. That's exactly why I set up the racial equity chair, that committees work the way I did. Like there's a whole Microsoft notebook and a Microsoft planner and stuff. So that people literally could do it guild style and you could just pick up the work you wanted to do. Because first of all, that encompasses so many different identities. So it's like, if you wanted to take something that's more personal to you, like for the Hmong community, like, Danny gets to set this in and put claim to it. That's the work he's doing. And then updates us on it all. And we convene when we can, if we can, as much as we can, kind of thing. It was designed to be much more fluid than it was to be a rigid kind of thing, just because of the fact that I know that not all students, especially if we're trying to reach all students, they're not gonna be able to attend every single thing. So.
What if we did this? Now, we have meetings on Thursdays, 4:30 to 6:30, right? Those don't move, right?
Yeah.
What if all committee meetings were on Tuesday at 4:30 and then the executive council was just at 5:30 afterwards? Is that like a standard thing? It's like, we can tell people, we've been telling people to block off Thursday. How are people's Tuesdays?
Okay, well,
Classes.
that'd be easier.
We're not this right now, like next semester. We can do it right now.
What about just, if we're at 4:30, what if 4 o'clock worked for everyone to be at it?
Just a 30-minute meeting right before Senate.
I mean, if it's a weekly meeting
I would
and
move it sooner than that. I would do 3:30 to
3:30. Would you think that would work with people?
we're at 3, 4.
Weekly, what?
All committees, because theoretically but some people could be on both, right? Well, no, maybe we just don't let them be on both, right? Is that
Well,
terrible?
some of the committees need to
I think
overlap.
I
as
think the
far as-
idea, so here's the thing, And Senator Willis, Phil, chime in whenever you want to, help, give past, experiences to help add to this. There's, it all, obviously, we've talked a lot about workload, right? So
Yeah.
here's the biggest issue comes down to what? We're excited and eager when we just get elected to Senate and that we want to do a bunch of things, but we don't really have realistic expectations that we have to manage other things like responsibilities of work, what have you, right? And that leads to where we're at right now. And Senator Willis can tell you because we've both experienced it. She's experienced longer than I have that. This right now is actually more usual than you think it is. You know, VP Greeter was talking about how he feels like he's behind right now, but I sat for a long time trying to add in accomplishments and figuring out what to do when I was writing the 3-year plan 2 years ago. It's typical to be in these situations because we do lose a bunch of people to things like graduation and whatnot that have to just step down because of grades. It's a typical thing. So if the VPs decide, because it's up to each VP to how they operate their internal committee, there's a standing committee, that they want to have a thing on this day, and that everyone who's in that committee can make that work. And if President Rochon is able to get all the VPs to meet on a specific day that works, then that's fine. That's fine, but you have to remember that when you set it one way, a bunch of people change their schedules, make it work. Danny, you were just talking about this, right? And then if it gets changed, then what if it doesn't work? You might then, so and I'm going to give my advice, and then I'm going to say it's going to be, I'm just giving my advice. Don't mess with what the meet. If you've got meeting times established, leave them, right?
No, we're not right now. We're not doing it now. I'm talking about like next semester, obviously.
There was nothing in the bylaws that says that besides the 4:30 for the GAs, there's nothing in the bylaws that say that you couldn't do anything one way or the other. That it's up to the VP to decide and the president for the executive team on when those meetings happen.
What if we collectively decided to do it Tuesday at 4:30? Because our choice, that could be changed if we wanted it to. Because then if it was standard, because then everything, because basically we asked people to block off 4:30, 6:30 on Thursday. They probably also.
Kai,
Yeah.
Kai, you have to also take into consideration, first of all, we have like 8-week classes, 12-week classes, and 16-week classes. So sometimes if people's schedules are shifting because of that, they may be available at one part of this semester and not the other. So you have so you don't want to be rigid and try to have something like that because first of all, you have a hard enough time trying to get people to be involved. I would say, yes, keep it set, let the executive team set the schedule for the meetings, but be flexible enough to allow those who cannot attend at the scheduled time to be able to come in when they are available and work on tasks.
Yeah, I was wondering if like we could set like maybe 10 minutes a week inside the Senate meetings and just say everyone could give their inputs of what tasks could be done. Like, okay, if somebody has an hour, to make a flyer on this.
So there was something like that, somewhat of a team building a thing at the end of every GA, you'd have shorter GAs and then you'd have time at the end that would be for team building or be for other things that collectively the 18 decided was important enough to shorten a GA meeting for it to talk about. So something, a task list and a priority list, I think that would be a very great reason to potentially do that, something like that. But yes, there has been a version of that in the past, Danny, so yeah.
What if before, so you know how we have public comment?
I technically want to let you guys know that we did just hit past that 15-minute mark. So if you want to extend, we should do it now.
We can extend 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
You just want to finish your comment?
Oh yeah,
I'm just gonna finish my comment because I can do that as the chairperson right now. The last thing I just wanted to say is that maybe, we're gonna come back to this discussion, but maybe what we can do is have like time, like you mentioned, in the meeting to meet with your committees after public comment. Just an idea, we can think about it later, in 2 weeks from now, because we're not gonna discuss it next week. Something to think about. Moving on. Do we need to? So, okay, non-business housekeeping.
I want to make an amendment here for adding an item that, didn't get mentioned earlier because I didn't have the chance.
Oh, I thought you talked about
Yeah, I was going to,
Oh.
so, yeah, the IDI conversation was not.
Oh, I mixed the letters up. Those are different things, huh? I'm sorry. I thought IBC is what you wanted to talk about.
I mean, yes, well,
Oh, okay. My bad. If you want to talk about that quick, sorry, we're just running out of time.
so, the IDI, I just want to make a quick amendment to like, just kind of make a commentary on it,
Yeah.
basically. So just like, can I get amendment to just?
Well, technically that, you can't do that.
I did promise.
So no, I'm saying, if you want to make an announcement and we just want to break rules.
Okay, sorry, no, here's the thing. No, T, I got you. I got you.
Can't
Hold on. No.
change. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, okay, I got this. Okay, call for application for inclusion belonging layer coordinator, communications coordinator, and Vision 2030 Senate appointments. The link is online now, it's active, you can go on Wolfpack Connect. Can you post that in the chat?
I can.
Okay, quick. Now we have announcements, and we'll be calling for new announcements at the end of that. So if anyone has some new announcements, they can announce it right after I say these two things. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, February 15th in room C2402 at 4:30 p.m. That will be a meeting where we do our ITC training, I believe the letters are. So intercultural development training, whatever. And again, we have applications open for the inclusion and belonging coordinator position, which the sooner you get the applications in, the sooner you'll be considered for it. And there's $200 stipend. A quick question here.
Yes, Vicky wanted us to remind everyone.
Yes. To take the training.
And that is not my commentary.
But there is room open. Do we have any other comments that would like to be said?
Well, I thought you were saying anyone else, because you already know I have one. No, so I was doing the IDI and I was going halfway through it and I discovered that there's a major problem with it. It does not account for perspective of the student taking it. So the problem with this is that there's questions in it that can make the perspective shift. So for one, you talk about your ethnicity or you talk about your US national status as a citizen. That's a major problem. Are you talking about your specific cultural identity or your nationality? That's a major problem with this particular survey because of these shifting questions, it does call that into question consistently of where are we, what are we talking about as the context of this question. So I honestly did not submit it because that is something I've always kind of kept as a red flag usually for surveys is when those perspectives do not stay stable or do not allow for you to select your perspective, because they could literally say any perspective. The people collecting the data could claim your perspective under whatever their idea was, but not yours. So that can completely skew the actual data because you're talking about two different things and you didn't know it.
Yeah, I wonder if that wasn't intentional and if it's just like a limitation of the survey. One thing I'd recommend is you're not required to take the survey by any means. There's no penalty for not taking it. But what I would recommend doing is just emailing Vicky maybe and saying, hey, I have this feeling about this survey and, I'm not going to take it and here's why. And I think that would help overall. I'm probably going to take the survey. I don't know. I haven't looked at it the same way you have. I haven't even opened the link, honestly, so I have to do that. So I'll be real. I didn't do it, but I will. And if you don't want to take it, you don't have to. And I would just ask that you urge that you email Vicky so that it's fixed for the future.
Yeah, I'm usually pretty good with talking with the DCRC when it comes to this particular topic in surveys.
Senator Willis does her hand up.
Yeah, Senator Willis.
Senator T, does it actually give you the capacity to add in comments? Or is there any place to fill in anything? Even if it's at a different question?
I don't think in the beginning, I want to redo that as well, but in the beginning, it does not allow for that. And I realized I do need to finish it, just kind of skim it to the end and see if it gets. So does it?
It does not have any place to add.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, then we definitely need to email Vicky. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you as well.
I think if there's if there is either one, there's an issue and Vicky can easily then have it on the radar, or she can explain whatever the miscommunication is and, you know, I did notice something slightly similar, how you phrased that. But overall, I found it very, very helpful. And actually, some of the stuff that was brought up today, was directly had information that you would find on the IDE or whatever. So I talk to Vicky if you have time problems.
Yeah, definitely. I will go ahead and shoot her an email on that. I actually do think I've already started that email. I sent her an email recently. Actually, I gotta double check what it was about. Because, yeah, Vicky puts together a lot of, like, Dr. Grady is like major helper for the DCRC. So like, she's usually the best person to get in communications with that. So yeah, it's definitely on my radar to talk to who does it. I actually did not know she put it together. So it's good information. Thank you.
Yeah, we figured some things out. Any other announcements, quick announcements for the end? No? Okay, moving on to adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn? So we'll do Senator Hurst since he's never logged as a person to make that motion. Senator Avila?
I feel like it should be Avila and Kennedy.
Sorry, oh, did you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know what, honestly, yes, we can modify that, so, sure, motion and second, or other vice versa, who cares?
Yeah.
Either way, all the, what,
That's the equally for me, right?
okay, the next one.
We do have
It doesn't matter.
Sure. Motion second, next time you'll do the, yep, okay. Anyways, all those in favor of adjourning, raise your hands. That's a clear majority online. One more.
we did have Senator Willis's hand up
Oh, I'm sorry.
prior to the.
Senator Willis, are you gonna make a motion to adjourn?
I'm pretty positive she did.
That was all in favor of leaving. So no, we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're-
Okay, all those opposed, not hearing anything, any abstentions, none, okay. Meeting adjourned at on time, 6:29 PM.
It's 6:30. Thank you so much, Kai.